On December 28th, several dozen alumni and former faculty from the Israel Arts and Science Academy released a letter to current students, urging them to resist joining the Israeli Defense Forces. Israel is one of several countries in the world that requires both men and women to serve in the armed forces. The letter states, quote, "Under a regime which negates any chance for diplomatic and social normalcy, which can ignore and quash sweeping social protests, refusal today is a brave and necessary act of civil resistance to unacceptable crimes. Today, after the most recent massacre in Gaza, a horror committed in our name against nearly 2 million people, half of whom are children and teenagers, we choose not to remain silent."
Joel Korenstein, husband and father of two, lives a great life in Israel where he moved when he was 9 years old. He was drafted into the military at the age of 18. He went to war during 2006, which was the start of the Lebanon War. He's created many friendships, but he also has seen many die. He states in the interview we did over email, Israel is a war zone, day in and night. He also said he was very happy and grateful for the opportunity to serve for his country, and especially to protect his family and friends. Joel said even though conscription is a law, it's much needed in Israel, because you don't know who will come after us the next day, be it Palestine or Iran. And finally, on the tail end of our interview, he pointed out that the U.S. is so protected, citizens don't face true adversity like them. They don't hear the shelling every night like they do. And they sit in a safe environment while we sit in a war zone. He's happy he served for his family and his friends and his country, and will do it all over again, because his life is just as important as others. And even though Joel agrees with conscription, he said that there's many out there that don't agree. He agrees that it does go against free will, but they need it in Israel considering they're always at war with either Palestine or Iran. He feels it's necessary for the safety of Israel, and he feels it's necessary for the safety of his family. And even though he's not in the military anymore, he lives a great life with his 2 kids and wife. Through birth to adulthood, teens in Israel are put in the middle of warfare, unfairly and without liberty. The use of compulsory military conscription in Israel is exceedingly immoral because it takes away Israelis' liberty as well as puts them into a hostile environment they may not be suited for. When a child turns 18, man or woman, they are enlisted in the Israeli military and must serve a certain amount of time to fulfill their duty for their country. Since Israel is in constant battle with Palestine and other Middle Eastern countries, they believe that the more people they have, the stronger their military will be. So compulsory military conscription is still enforced to this day. Many countries all over the world use mandatory military conscription, and Israel believes that it is necessary in order to maintain the safety of Israel as well as the unity of Israeli citizens. Palestine has continued for years to torment and try to destroy the Israeli people. Palestine has no intention on creating a peace treaty with Israel. This is due to the fact that after World War II, Israel was given a large part of Palestine, which they considered their traditional home, but Arabs who already lived there and in neighboring countries felt that this was unfair and didn't accept the new country. Palestine has promised their people that Israel will be erased from the world and Gaza will be a part of Palestine once again. If the Israeli people didn't use compulsory military service, they believed that they would not be strong enough to hold off Arab forces. Mandatory conscription is never as good as willing and able professional soldiers that want to serve their country. Conscripts are forced citizens who may not be suited for warfare and brings in unqualified soldiers. Conscripts will not last as long nor is combat reliable in the battlefield as compared to a real soldier who is trained to do that. Conscripts are only given basic training on how to use a gun and prepare for contact with another military force. They are not trained as well as voluntary soldiers. In addition to not being prepared for war, many soldiers suffer from psychological problems such as PTSD because they never wanted to join the military and may not have had the mental stability to handle warfare. Israel believes that the national service helps build individual character and patriotism. Young adults are the ones who join the military, and their perspective can change dramatically entering the military. At a vulnerable age of just becoming an adult, from about 18 to 22 years old, teens are taught respect for authority, self-discipline, teamwork, and leadership skills in order to give back to their community from being forced into the military. Others think that it's unpatriotic of the country to force citizens into the military. Requiring service drains the gift of its virtue. This is because in order for an act to be patriotic, it has to be voluntary. Since citizens are required to enlist, they wouldn't respect authority due to the fact that government was the only one who put them there in the first place, and they wouldn't treat their service as an act of patriotism because they are obligated to take part in the country's service. The citizens of Israel have a duty to serve their country because everyone else does. This encourages the idea of working as a community and protecting each other instead of merely for selfish ends. The Israeli government believes that taxes aren't enough to fulfill the citizens' principles in a democracy, and that the national service is a great substitute instead of a larger taxes added on the ones already enforced. In a very small percentage of countries around the world, communities have a strong bond between the poor and rich, but in Israel's eyes, the army should be the great leveler for Israeli society. Rich, poor, tall, short, all know their duty to the state, and all expect their fellow citizens to pull their weight by joining the military. In a democracy, to be a citizen, the only duty one must fulfill and obey is the law. Beyond the law, the only service a citizen should do is voluntary. If a country is committed to democracy, that means it is run by the people for the people. If the service became voluntary, it would also encourage people to do a good job, instead of just getting by with mandatory service. The rite of passage into adulthood for young Jewish kids is being drafted in the military. It's a part of their rich history. Men serve between 2 and 3 years, and women serve on average about a year and a half. Depending on how their service went, officer school could be in the future, but many remain in the military anyways to protect their culture and people. In Israel, saving the life of one amounts to saving the world. Because they cherish each other's lives so much and it's in their history, that there's an unspoken promise that the citizens of Israel should be able to sleep peacefully at night knowing that they will wake up safely the next day. Not only does history support mandatory conscription, Judaism does too, because they are allowed to protect themselves under Jewish beliefs. Even though the religion supports mandatory conscription if needed, the young adults lose vulnerable time to go to school and live their lives with their families. Any adults in Israel who want a college degree have to wait years to obtain one. Not only does it affect their families, but it affects them because as you age, your ability to learn diminishes since your brain is not developing anymore. People have trouble learning later in life because it's only downhill after early 30s for the brain. So really, the young adults are wasting their fresh developing brains by being drafted, hurting their chances in the future to obtain a job and to support their family because a college degree is so important in society today. Compulsory military conscription in Israel violates free will and puts vulnerable people in warfare. Although mandatory conscription can maintain a safer environment due to a larger military, it hurts more than helps. Unqualified citizens as well as liberty are affected when they are forced to enlist in Israel warfare.